We are absolutely delighted to have you here. My name is Debbie Dawkins. I'm a current board member and I'll be assisting with the evening. Before we begin this evening, I would like to invite a past Founders honoree, the Reverend Harvey Smith, to come forward to offer our invocation.
Eternal and everlasting God, we are grateful for this day that you have given to us, for the opportunities that we have to serve our community through this foundation that we have established. And we're grateful for this honoree this evening, for the work that he has done throughout our community over these years. We pray your continued blessing upon him and encourage his fruitfulness in the future. Thank you for this food, for the beautiful day, for the blessings that you bestow upon us. All of these things we pray in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. We will now ask the Scouts of Troop 236 and 516 to lead us to post the colors and then lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Will you please stand?
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Cloud Guard, please post the colors. Scout sign. Oath. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, and to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. Scout law. The Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. 2. Cloud Guard dismissed. Audience, you may be seated.
Thank you, Scouts. All I could think of was the Girl Scout oath, but if I could have your attention, please. We'd like to begin this evening's festivities celebrating Dr. Paul Stull, and I'd like to introduce our president of the Centerville-Washington Foundation, Mr. Kevin McDonald.
Thank you, Debbie. It needs to be a little higher. Thank you, Debbie. We're so happy to have everyone here and glad that everyone's taking their time out of their busy schedule to honor such a great individual, Dr. Paul Stull. I want to start the evening by recognizing and introducing many individuals that are here tonight, and also to thank our sponsors. I would ask that the individuals stand, and please hold your applause as I go through the various categories. First, though, with applause after I name these, the past honorees that I think are here tonight: Bob and Bernita Daly, Charles Goodwin, and Paul Heinz. Please. We also want to remember the founders who we've lost since we were last gathered in person: Jim Reppert, Sally Beals, Doris Ponence, Joyce Young. Quite a list, unfortunately. Tonight, we want to recognize from the township, I think Gary Smiga is here, and from the city, Brooks Compton and Mariah Vogel sang. And I'm not sure if there were others from the city. If they would please stand and be honored for being here. Thank you. Centerville-Washington Park District staff, we have Ginger Clark and Chris Huff. And from Washington Centerville Library Board, Richard Carr, Bob Hanselman, and Liz Foltz. Thank you so much. Then the trustees of the Centerville-Washington Foundation, and I'd ask all of them to please stand now as I read their names, and then be seated at the end. So if you'd all please stand from the board, thank you. First, I want to recognize Carol Kennard, who's the chair of this event and has done such a wonderful job of putting this all together. Also, Mike Beavis, who is past president and has done just so much, always stepping in for any of the duties that need to be done. Other board members, Momley Onim, Kyle Brandon, Scott Colwell, Brendan Cunningham, Debbie Dawkins, Artie Garge, Bob Hanselman, who is already standing once tonight, Jack Lobeck, Chris McAlpin, and Kate Trangenstein. Thank you so much. You guys make my job so much easier. I appreciate it. We have many sponsors that make this event a successful fundraiser. The corporate sponsors are Voss Auto Network, Earhart CRM and Web Consulting, Miami Valley Communications Council, Minutemen Press of Centerville, Tri-Level Records and Video. At the platinum level, Centerville Noon Optimist Club, Richard and Eileen Carr, Paul Heinz, Dr. Brian and Jane Lokai, Reverend Harvey Smith, and an anonymous donor. At the gold level, Dr. Momley Anim, Grace Fasano, and another anonymous donor. Silver level, the Boy Scouts of the Miami Valley Council, Centerville-Washington Park District, Jack and Debbie Lobeck, University of Dayton, Brooks and Ruth Compton, John and Marge Hazelton, Bob and Sharon Lowry, and Kate Trangenstein. Special thanks also for other organizations that have done special work for tonight. Miami Valley Communication Council and Richard Diaz for their taping of this event. Terry O'Brien of Tri-Level Records and Video for the production of the video. Jesse Gaither and the Minutemen Press in Centerville. Bob Daly for his wonderful photography for this evening. Charlotte Prince for the tasty dog bones that you all be able to enjoy. Carol Kennard for the centerpieces. Centerville Noon Optimist Club, Avenue of the Flags. Richard Carr, a former board member who has done so much behind the scenes for this event. Lucy Baker, the representative for the Dayton Foundation. And cannot forget, last but not least, Janice Fiddleshin for her work as the administrator for our Centerville-Washington Foundation. Thank you all for so much that you've done. Thank you. So let me tell you a little bit about the foundation. Centerville-Washington Foundation is dedicated to helping you help our community. Centerville-Washington Foundation provides grants in the areas of education, poverty, environment, arts, health, and social services. We accomplish this using donations from individual contributors, corporate sponsors, legacy donors who desire to make a positive impact in our community. Paul is a lot like this foundation. He served this community and helped others serve this community. With the Optimists, the Library, and the Scouts, he's helped others serve. With his veterinary practice, he's helped the companion animals we all love so much. You'll hear so much more about him later. Right now, I'm going to have Debbie come back up and honor Paul. Thank you, Debbie.
Paul has truly been an amazing builder in our community, a founder in every sense of the word. Tonight, we honor Paul, who has been a part of almost every type of organization in our community: governmental, civic, educational, and veterinary. each of you know only a small part of Paul's story. So let us prepare to see all the pieces come together as we give you a picture of Paul's work. Again, note the significance of the centerpieces designed and created by Carol Kennard. Campfires in honor of Paul's work with the Scouts. The animals represent his work as a veterinarian. The flags, too, his service to our country. Many of you may not know that he was involved with Homeland Security directly after 9/11. The majestic flags lining the drive on the way are courtesy of the Centerville Noon Optimists Avenue of Flags project, and I was informed that the Centerville Noon Optimists will provide a flag-lined walkway in honor of our founder every year going forward. Also, and I should mention, Paul is also the longest-serving member of the Centerville Noon Optimist Club, over 50 years. And again, I've also always wanted to give a dog a bone, but tonight we're giving you dog bones, well, cookies, in honor of Paul's veterinary work. So Charlotte Pritz is the baking artist. Tonight we will have speakers by proclamation, in person, and via video. So the first is a proclamation from the Ohio House of Representatives. It's gorgeous. It's courtesy of Representative Tom Young, Robert R. Cupp, the Speaker, and Andrea White. And I'll just read a small portion of it to Dr. Stull. Conceived in a spirit of community service and the joy of giving, your charitable efforts have had a positive and lasting effect on the Centerville area. A co-founder of the Suburban Veterinary Clinic, you have set yourself apart as the longest-serving member of Centerville Noon Optimist Club, and your involvement with such organizations as the Miami Valley Council of the Boy Scouts of America and the Washington Centerville Public Library Board and Park District has offered you the unique opportunity to mentor others. By your enthusiastic civic participation, you have helped to promote goodwill among the community. Thus, it is with genuine admiration that we applaud you on your recent distinction and salute you as an outstanding Ohioan. I believe we also have some other proclamations. Mr. Mayor, would you like to come up, sir?
It's an honor to be here on behalf of the city to honor Paul this evening. All of us who have lived in the community for an extended period of time, which many of us have here this evening that are here this evening. We appreciate his contribution to our community and has made it a better community for all that he's done. I am a Centerville Noon Optimist, so I'm very familiar with Paul and his commitment to the Centerville Noon Optimist, which is a very good organization along with the Rotary in our community, and we very much appreciate, Paul, your commitment to the community and all that you've done. So I'd just like to read just a little bit of a proclamation. Whereas Dr. Paul Stull has been an active resident of our community for over 50 years, and whereas he is one of the founders of the Suburban Veterinary Clinic, Dr. Paul Stull has loved and treated many of our pets over the years. Whereas Dr. Stull has devotedly served as council president of the Miami Valley Council of the Boy Scouts of America, on the board of the Washington Centerville Public Library for 22 years, for the Centerville-Washington Park District with the Centerville Police Department and the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, and on the Homeland Security Advisory Council. And I'm sitting next to his friend and partner on that from Homeland Security of his work that took place in 9/11 and various activities. And that's a real honor to be sitting next to his friend, but for all that, Paul, that you've done to the service to the nation for that regard. You are the longest serving member of the Centerville Noon Optimist Club, and you have taken an active interest in making this community a better place for for all of us to live, work, play, and raise our families. Now, therefore, I, Brooks A. Compton, with the support of our entire City Council and our entire city staff, do hereby proclaim October 7, 2021 to be Dr. Paul Stull Day in the city of Centerville, and extend sincere commendations for his leadership, commitment, and dedication to our community. I urge everyone to let Paul use that dedication of today for 24 hours starting today. So the police department has been so notified. So Paul, the next 24 hours are on the city of Centerville. So thank you very much.
Oh, that's funny. That's great. Congratulations. And I've also been informed, too, that the trustees with Washington Township did present a proclamation to you, Dr. Stull, but unfortunately they had other commitments this evening. Congratulations. So at this time, Dr. Lokai, are you ready? He's ready. I'd like to introduce to you a partner with Suburban Veterinary Clinic, Dr. Brian Lokai.
Dr. Paul Stull, man or myth? That is the question we are all here to determine. I've known Dr. Stull since 1975 when I was in Cub Scouts with Tim. Remember those days, Tim? And Dr. Stull was my family veterinarian since then as well. And when I was 16, I begged for a job at Suburban Veterinary Clinic, and I've been there ever since. So I have known Dr. Stull for 47 of my 54 years. So hopefully we can determine if he is a man or myth. When I got ready to do this speech, I Googled how to do a speech. And there was a fine gentleman on YouTube who purported to be an expert in the topic. He said that you should start every speech with "once upon a time." Because as children, we are ingrained that when we hear "once upon a time," we get quiet, we gather around, we sit in a circle, we use our listening ears. And I thought about Dr. Stull and some of his adventures, and fairy tales did not come to mind. He may be Mrs. Stull's prince, however, I know some things about him that may change that concept. In fact, fairy tales are fable, they're made up, they're fiction. And everything I'm about to tell you is 100% unadulterated truth. In fact, when I was putting this together, Dr. Stull, I am relatively certain that you should get royalties from the Indiana Jones movies. Because I'm pretty sure they stole your life when they put those together. It's true. Indiana Jones, he was a professor, right, of archaeology. Dr. Stull is a professor of entomology at UD. He's been teaching there, almost a decade. That's the study of insects, for those of you that don't know. He's a pilot. Indiana Jones was a pilot. Dr. Stull has flown planes all over. He's flown to Alaska, been lost in the clouds, made it back somehow. Dr. Stull knows how to ride a motorcycle. He had a motorcycle for several years until Mrs. Stull found out. That was the end of the motorcycle. He's kayaked many Class 5 water rapids all over the country, survived. He's a lucky man. I'm not sure that was skill, Dr. Stull. In his 60s, he decided to get a black belt in martial arts. Once again, Mrs. Stull was unaware of this. Took him 5 years, and he achieved his black belt status in martial arts. So I think he could hold his own in some of those Indiana Jones fights. He's not a searcher of relics and artifacts. However, he has been prospecting all over the country. He's been to Alaska for gold, California for gold. He's got sapphires from Montana and the Carolinas. He's found diamonds in Arkansas. He's been to, I think, all 50 states, if I'm correct, in many countries across the world. World traveler, just like the Indiana Jones fellow. He's a scuba diver. He jogs 3 or 4 times a week, 3 miles at a time. Does over 100 some push-ups a day. All of that's impressive in itself. However, I am going to delve into his veterinary career, which he has had for well over 50 years. And some of those adventures are quite exciting. Every day is an adventure in the veterinary world, as we know. And when Dr. Stull calls, you have better be ready to lose 2 or 3 hours out of your time, out of your life that you may never get back. You had better be ready for an exciting event or story that will be told over and over again at a party. And it might be slightly dangerous. For example, on a Sunday afternoon, I might get a phone call like this. Hey, buddy, what you doing? Oh, hey, Dr. Stull, not much. What's up? Well, you see, there's this beaver stuck behind the air conditioner at the Speedway. Do you want to go with me to try to capture it? I'm not sure, Dr. Stull. Let me think about it for a minute. I'm watching football here. True story. I think you were in on that, Tim, weren't you? Tim was in on the beaver. One of Dr. Stull's famous stories involves a few props here. This is a bathroom rug. This is not the actual bathroom rug, but a 12-foot python swallowed the 2 rabbits that were on the bathroom rug and the bathroom rug. So Dr. Stull decided to cut this thing open and remove the bathroom rug. He had me standing on the surgery table using these very channel locks, which are not a veterinary tool, to extract this thing. Now let me tell you about the smell that seemed to rise up. That is why I didn't bring the actual rug. If you want to get a selfie with the very channel locks that were utilized in this extraction after dinner tonight, we can do that. Hey, buddy, what you up to? Now, see, that's how he started every phone call. And so my daughters would hear this on the answering machine because I did start to screen my calls. I usually picked up for Dr. Stull. He told me I was the kind of friend that would help him bury a body in the middle of the night with no questions asked. I said, I'm going to have some questions. 1, where are we putting the body? And 2, who's doing the digging? Hey, buddy, what you up to? Oh, not much. Do you want to learn how to descent a skunk? Oh, that's kind of interesting. I think I'll bite on this one. The Museum of Natural History needed a skunk to be descented. Well, you know how when you get too many cooks in the kitchen, things don't go well? First of all, this was in our surgery suite. Second of all, Dr. Stull had the propensity to do this on the night before he was off the next day. All these adventures occurred when he wasn't going to get Dr. Garassi and Dr. Workman's wrath. I would be there to get it. Well, we both pulled at the same time, and when there's 2 people pulling on the back of a skunk's tail, things happen. And we ripped the sack open at point blank range. And, you know, it's a little different than when you're on a country road and you smell a skunk in the distance when you're about a foot away. Our technician was vomiting over here. One of our workers had a leather jacket and 3 rooms away behind 2 closed doors. And it soaked that smell right into that leather. 3 dry cleanings later, it still had a slightly musky odor, but it was just enough that, you know, it smelled like a good cologne, and the fella wasn't too unhappy with us. I'm relatively certain Mrs. Stull put Dr. Stull on the couch for a few days. That was the last skunk we descented. I could smell skunk in my nose for about 3 weeks. My rubber stethoscope, about 6 months. So this part of our program was brought to you by Skunk Off. We sell this at Suburban Veterinary Clinic for $8 a bottle. If you think you're going to be involved in an event with Dr. Stull that involves skunks, I highly recommend this product. Maybe 1, 2 bottles. It's good stuff. One time Dr. Stull said, hey, can you go in exam room 3? I've got a cat in there we need to take x-rays of. I walked in exam room 3, I saw no cat. I leaned over the exam room table, and a 110-pound mountain lion took a swipe at my face. For some reason, Dr. Stull thinks that one of his coworkers being annihilated by a predatory cat is hilarious, because he proceeded to double over and laugh for the better part of 15 minutes. Remember the dangerous part. Dr. Stull has been known to pick up roadkill because he is so inquisitive and has such a scientific nature that he would put it in the trunk of his car, take it to his house. I don't know if Mrs. Stull was aware of this. Relatively certain she wasn't. Throw it in the backyard just to see how long it took various flies and maggots to come and take care of the carcass. I'm telling you, this is true. No fairy tales here, people. He also has a skull collection, and he would use it to teach many of the veterinary students and look at them pre-surgically to get the anatomy of these skulls. Now, the way he cleaned the skulls was first take the roadkill and throw it in your backyard. Then he would take the skull to our surgery suite, put it in a dog bowl of water with water on a hot plate, and cook the meat off of it. Everything was fine and dandy till we came back from our 2-hour lunch and opened the back door with black smoke rolling out and the lovely smell of charred flesh. That was the last skull Dr. Stull was able to collect at our facility. Hey, buddy, what you up to? The circus is in town. They need somebody to come do physical exams on the lions and tigers and get a health certificate so they can travel across state. You busy? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He didn't win all his battles with the animals. The famous battle with the river otter at the Boonshoff Museum, Dr. Stull was precariously balanced on a 4-inch ledge over the river otter's pond. The river otter was behind him, chewing on a hole into his leg. I saw the hole. It was impressive. But Dr. Stull got that injection in that river otter, and Dr. Stull thinks he won that battle. I talked to the river otter yesterday. He's not even going to give you a draw. He won. Dr. Stull has given me many life lessons. For example, screen your calls. Secondly, if you have a squirrel on your head, don't move. Occasionally, run. Save 10% of your income. Always give people the benefit of the doubt. Find the best in others. And to be truly great, you must give back. Obviously, you're going to hear about thousands of people and animals that Dr. Stull has helped, scouts, churches, organizations. I don't want to go into all that. I want to let you know that he's my personal mentor, my personal hero, one of the most important people in my life. Every time I see roadkill, I will think of you. Every time I get the stench of skunk, I will think of you. Every time I see a dirty, smelly bathroom rug, I will think of you. I believe I have painted the picture to retitle my speech, Dr. Paul Stull, The Man, the Myth, the Legend. Thank you.
Oh, man, that is going to be a tough one to follow. That was excellent. Next up, another veterinarian from Orchard Veterinarian Care, Dr. Robert Gano.
Good evening. That's a hard act to follow, but I will give one skunk story. I think every veterinarian should descent one skunk. I was smart enough to do it on the farm instead of at the office. The instruments that I used smelled like a skunk, regardless of disinfecting, autoclaving for a month. So one and done. Dr. Stull and I met 11 years ago. I was in need of a veterinary helper, and he had recently retired and hated it. So I wish we had met sooner. I think we make a good team. I was, when he first came, I am a shy, quiet person in general. He is not. I lack some self-confidence. He does not. Paul is a doer and a dreamer with the most positive attitude I've ever seen. And it's contagious to the people around him. He was born and raised in Jackson, Ohio, on a dairy farm. And I think this may be where he got his work ethic. The cows need to be milked, fed twice a day, every day, on time. And Paul lives by that same work ethic today. The first job that he had out of veterinary school was in Florida. He went there with a full head of hair and his first wife, as he refers to her. And the veterinarian that he went to work had a busy practice, and the veterinarian left him there to work on his own. Figured out for yourself, no referral centers then, not even a veterinary school in Florida. When he did return to Ohio, he then taught at Ohio State Veterinary School with pocket pets and rabbits and snakes and birds, and eventually he came to Centerville, owned several practices in his time, and I'm glad that when he retired he decided that he should keep working. So he's been a big help to me. His life would have been busy enough for most people just as a veterinarian, but he is also a teacher, an author, a pilot, a deacon in his church, a gemologist, whitewater rafting guide, and many other things that I'm probably not well, scouting for sure, a lot of other things he's been involved with. He still teaches entomology at the University of Dayton. He took extra courses to become a forensic entomologist by attending classes at Pennsylvania, Florida, and California. He's a certified canoe and kayak instructor, an international jamboree leader with travels to Chile, England, Sweden, and Japan. He's a deacon and leader in the Morning Star Baptist Church. He's served on the library board, the Homeland Security Advisory Council, the Ohio Veterinary Medicine Licensing Board. He's instrumental in getting the veterinary technician program started at St. Clair University. He's also been selected as Veterinarian of the Year in Miami Valley. As busy as his life has been, he's a true doer and giver of his time and talent, and for that we're all fortunate. He will show up with a soldering iron to fix your microscope, or talk you through a surgery that maybe you haven't done before and gives you that confidence to go ahead and do something. We had someone who was financially unable to afford a referral, had cancer in the jaw. He decided that we could take off the jaw. So it's a hemimandibulectomy, removing the entire jaw from one side. And we means I did it with him coaching. And he is a very good teacher in that regard. He doesn't try to do it for you. He talks you through it. Very good teacher. Some veterinarians may not be financially rich, but have enriched lives in other ways. Paul has donated many hours to the Greene County and Montgomery County Sheriff and Police Departments, caring for injured wildlife and neglected horses. He's on the speed dial with Glen Helen Wildlife Sanctuary. He's helped with zoo animals in Columbus and in Cincinnati. Paul is a bit frugal. I'll give a couple of stories. Paul is not above pulling the box of stale donuts out of the trash just because he doesn't like to see them wasted. He's still driving a car with over 250,000 miles, not because he can't afford a new one, but he just wants to see how far it'll go. And I finally replaced the coat for him. He had a coat that had holes in it, and he would wear it to work, and just because he liked the coat. So that's the life that Paul has lived. So for there were the period of 2 years when Paul left me and went to work as the assistant state veterinarian. But the politics of that job, he decided he'd had enough of that and came back to help me once again. I'm glad he did. I walk at least a mile every day to try and stay in shape. Paul runs 3 or 4 miles. That's kind of the story of his life. He must have had a great support person, and that he does. And that's his first and only wife of 57 years, Janet. Thank you for sharing him with us.
We also have with us this evening to talk about Paul, Tim Harrison, who is a retired Oakwood police officer, as well as an exotic animal wrangler. You may have seen him in the documentary, The Elephant in the Room. Also, the new one just released, The Conservation Game. So come on up, Tim, please.
Before we get started here, I just want to say I am honored to be here, Dr. Stull. And I do like to listen to you on those long trips we did across the state, getting tigers out of backyards, bears, alligators, all those animals. I love listening to your stories. I may be the only one, apparently, but I do enjoy them. They do keep me awake as I'm driving. But you know, it's funny because you and I both like to tell stories anyway. But start off with, you're one of the few people I call Doc. I've got a lot of veterinarian friends. Jim Tennell, he's telling us that. I got a lot of friends. You know, a lot of surgeons that work with me out here that actually work on the animals, the primates, doctors. I do call Dr. Goodwin Doc too, because you guys been out there with me on the front line, working on bloodless surgery, both of you. On that Franco, that monkey with the huge hernia, bloodless surgery, ladies and gentlemen. They fixed a gigantic bowling ball and a snow macaque, over at somebody's pet. Did surgery on him. One was it just one little 2x4, 4x4? What was it? Just tapped it and that was it. No blood. That's how.
If there had been blood on it, I probably would have fainted.
You'd have fainted. Yeah, we don't want that. You never want the surgeon to faint. But Dr. Stull and them did a beautiful job. Primates, tigers, anything you ask for them, they're there. So he's one of the few people. Both these guys are one of the few people I call Doc. I can't call them by their names because they're on the front line. I see what they do. They've earned blood, guts, and sweat out there doing it. I got to ask this question. This is from all of us that I've been around you. Are you retired yet? Every time I ask you, I say, well, I'm retired. Tim, we're going over to the office. I'm retired. Let's go get the deer. I'm retired. Oh, we got wolves in Wapakoneta. We just had that before the holidays. We just end up going up with the U.S. Marshals and the Sheriff's Department. And I got the funny thing when you're walking up, I video you, and there's that Paul Stull, Dr. Paul Stull giggle. As he's walking up, because we're going right into a battle. We got a guy, Bob Sawmiller, who's one of the most, he makes Joe Exotic look like a beginner. And he's leaned up against his truck, and he's not going to let nobody on no property to get no animals. And Dr. Stull walks right up to him laughing. He said, Bob, you know who I am. And he has that, I was going to say it a little bit later, but I got to say it now, that sense of humor. He actually cares about people, but there's that sense of humor and that love in his voice. And it took the wind right out of his sails, didn't it? I mean, he was ready to fight, and he hates my guts. He hates everybody's guts. He hates the government. He hates everybody. And he's leaning and he goes, well, Paul, here we go. I know you got him then, Doc. You had him when he said, okay, Paul. And he's listening to you. And there's the U.S. Marshals over there pacing, like, when are we going to get on this property? We got to get out here. And they don't know what to do. And that's one of the magical parts is that we work with people. We're human and animal advocates, and that's why we work together. I'll throw out, too, with a man like Dr. Paul Stull, he just like he said, he doesn't just do animals, he does people. And when you do people and animals, you're successful. You know you're going to work. You're going to find out what's wrong. I love listening to him when somebody says something, oh, my tiger's not feeling well. And Denise would say, she had eight tigers in her backyard in Ashland, Ohio. We moved them across country. But Dr. Stull, who wasn't really there because you were the deputy vet of the state and you weren't allowed there, but he was there and helping to do surgeries. That's who he is, right? So we have all these videos. We're not allowed to show him. In the first film, The Elephant in the Living Room, we can't show him anywhere because he was working for the state basically most of the time of that. But it was so funny because when we were there, he's asking Denise, how are you doing today? How's everything going with you? And I'm thinking, oh man, I wish he was my doctor, because he's actually trying to find out how I'm feeling and what's causing the problem, the stress in this tiger or whatever it is. So it's the whole ball of wax. And that's why I've learned a lot from you. I've learned so much from you and have saved my life a few times, haven't you? Yeah. And one thing I can tell you is too, I don't want to go too deep into this because a lot of people have already said about everything I was going to say. You're a true hero, but you're humble. You like to tell stories, but they're stories that mean something. The stories that actually happen, they're all true. But you're humble. So when you're standing back, I remember so clearly we had those attorneys from the Animal Defense League, and they're just yap, 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 right on the bad guy's face and going to town and everybody else. And even the U.S. Marshals looking at me, can you get these people out of my face, right? Because they're from California. And they don't understand Ohio at times. So I go up and I try to separate them out. And Dr. Stull is just so calmly over there, and one of the attorneys turned around and goes, who's that? I said, that's the veterinarian you ordered, because no other vet would show up. All the vets that talk on TV and do all the stuff never show up. That guy shows up. See Jim Tennille's talking, Bill Kachafi there, Greg McDonald over here. We've all been there. Who shows up? You, Dr. Stull, Dr. Goodwin, that's it. We don't get Dr. Pollock, does the facial reconstruct stuff. That's it. And I cannot tell you enough, people, you have no idea what he's done on a national basis. When he became the deputy vet of the state of Ohio, we discussed that, didn't we? We talked about it. He goes, what can I do to help these animals after the Zanesville massacre, which I was at that. And I said, we got to have somebody in power because the governor's not listening to us. Nobody's listening to what's going on. He stepped up. And if you have any idea what the state was at that time, it was the whole world was watching us. We were under a microscope. You got to remember, 56 of the most dangerous, 38 big cats were shot and killed that night. And the world was watching us. And Dr. Stull stepped up and said, I'll do it. I'll step into this mess. You heard the other veterinarian just say he went and did his job and he left. Well, he didn't just quite leave. You finished the job. We got those animals out, didn't we? We got people from all over the country to step up. And Dr. Stull led that whole fight. And it's going to be brought out later on in another book. I'm working on 2 other books with other people, and it's going to be all brought out. How much he did for the state of Ohio and how much he did for animals and people. And we don't even talk about with the Boy Scouts, because all 3 of my boys are Eagle Scouts, or 2 of my boys are Eagle Scouts, one's an Arrow of Light. And working with that as a police officer, there's nothing better than the Boy Scouts when it comes to building people to be strong Americans, be strong people. And what they did, him, Dr. Goodwin, is amazing. Internationally known with the Boy Scouts, you can't put any kind of anything on that. It's just so amazing that people don't realize what you do for young men. I'll see you, and you'll be walking somewhere, Dr. Goodwin said, but Dr. Stull, it's your night. Not yours, Dr. Goodwin. So it's Dr. Stull, and you'll be walking somewhere, and somebody, hey, Dr. Stull, Mr. Stull, how you doing? Hey, all these young people grown up now, they're made something of themselves, and it's all because of them. It's absolutely all because of them. It wasn't anybody, it was just absolutely them. One thing, too, about the working with the Ohio Division of Agriculture, I'll finish up here in a minute, is that they didn't like me a lot. They had to use me. Dr. Stull stood up for me, and when any time the governor, Kasich, any of them were coming after me, he got between them. And that takes a lot of guts, because you got the most powerful man in the state of Ohio, and it was Sabrina, his right hand. She thought she was the most powerful woman in the state of Ohio, but Dr. Stull would stand right up, and he would not let a friend down. He'll have your back as long as you're truthful, as long as you're straightforward. He'll have your back at all times. And I can tell you right now, there's things I want to say right here, right off the bat, before I finish up here. So Dr. Stull, I love you. You know that. We've been through a lot. Dr. Loki was talking about, hey, buddy. sometimes I'm the one calling Dr. Stull. Hey, buddy, we got an elephant in the garage, or we got, 6 tigers in the backyard, and, and he's like, it's not even a hesitation. Okay, let me get to the office, and let's get some gear, and let's head out. And we're like, no matter what time it is. No matter what time it is, it'd be 3 o'clock in the morning. I tell his wife, I'm sorry, I want to apologize for taking him out. Well, thank you for letting him come out and play. Because it really is. It's actually Ohio State history was made with him. But his sense of humor, his ability to communicate, and his humbleness is what got us through all the political stuff. It is one of those situations where his moral compass kept everything going the right direction. Because if it wasn't for his moral compass, if it wasn't the way that he is, this state would have just imploded at that time, because there was a lot of pressure from the outside. Every time I was interviewed in Tokyo, Australia, about the situation, first question out of their mouth was Zanesville. It's still that way. I'm getting interviewed tomorrow twice before I go up for a film festival. And the first question is going to be about Zanesville. And look, that's the 10th year anniversary is coming up. So it's one of those situations where this guy here, I'm not hesitating. He saved Ohio. He saved our face, he saved the animals, and he saved the people. But his moral compass is the one thing that I'll always remember with him, is that how he kept everybody on the right track. And one thing, too, I'll finish up with this, his sense of humor. We all know his sense of humor. And Dr. Loki's talking about almost getting your face ripped off by a mountain lion. Well, I don't know if I don't want to say the sense of humor. I love his sense of humor because it's just the way he jokes. And he can bring in, you can have a motorcycle gang there, and Dr. Stull will have him eating out of the palm of his hand, joking around and poking on him and stuff. But the one thing is that we did a lot of animals together. There was a Pattis monkey. I don't know if you know what those are. It was about 50 pounds. We got the world's longest canines. They're the fastest primate. Zoos don't keep them. A woman had one in her backyard in Atlanta, Indiana. All right, and escaped once. We came and we worked on it, and its tooth grew through its jaw, and Dr. McDonald worked on that. Well, we had to go back because I had a tumor, and they thought I had cancer. So we went back, and we gave it grapes with Valium in it. This is like a huge animal. Baboons will leave them alone. And Dr. Stull's explaining to me about it. They got the longest canines. They're quite aggressive. They're super fast, very dangerous. We have to be very careful with this animal. So as we're working on this animal, the animal won't go down. Eats the grapes, won't go down. I dart it, still kind of flopping around, not quite down. I turned around to open up the gate. Thought I was talking to him and the other young lady that owned the monkey. All of a sudden, he's in on the monkey already. He's got the dog. You know what I'm talking about, don't you, Loki? Dr. Loki, right? He's on this 50-pound ape, basically, and he's giving it an injection in his butt. And that's not the first time, was it? We did it again? No. It could be a big cat. And sometimes you have to keep an eye on him. Because I know he knows what he's doing. But I can tell you right now, it scared me at first, And then after a while, when you caught that one python in front of the herpetologist, Keith Gadd, remember when you were doing the python, it struck at your face? And we're standing here, and you got to remember, he's not a young, I consider him young, because he acts like he's young. Yes. But because that python was hanging out of the bag, and he was moving, and Keith was going to put it onto the table, and went wham, right in his face, and he went poof. And he goes, guys, I need you to go over here. And Keith's standing there, and this guy's a world-renowned herpetologist. He's a national park ranger. He's in the new film Conservation Game, too. And he's looking at me. He's looking at like that. He goes, what? Do you remember that, Dr. Stull? It's pretty amazing, wasn't it? I don't think you even register sometimes you do those things. Because it's right there in your hand, his mouth's open. He goes, well, let me take a look at him, lay him out there. And Keith's still like stunned. He's in a state of shock. Like, I just don't believe what I just saw. And that, to me, is amazing. And that's one of the things, I can just tell you, trustworthy, loyal, always there. Sounds like a scout, doesn't it? Well, I can see. I get a little emotional since I almost died last year, as you know. And I thank God what you did to the dog or animal, you explained everything that was going to happen to me with the jaw removal and everything else. As you can tell, it's all been replaced. Thank you for being there, Dr. Goodwin, too, and Dr. McDonald, all of you, and Bill, and all of you just for being there for me. And I can't say enough about that. because that meant so much that you would take your time to explain to me basically what they're going to do to me. Sometimes they didn't want to hear it, but it was good to know, because when I got in there, there was no surprise. And I was able to get through it. And thanks for being there, guys. And Dr. Stull, you guys picked a great guy to give an award to. We did for Outreach for Animals, my organization gave him a big plaque years ago for saving all these. I mean, we're talking into hundreds of animals in the state of Ohio. We're not talking guppies and geckos. We're talking lions, bears, tigers, leopards, alligators, cobras, anything you can think of. And we gave him a plaque years ago for that. And the CART team, which Bill was on the head of, the CART team, that we all together gave him a plaque. And to me, he is probably the most important person in my life when it comes to working with these animals. So, when you see the things we do and everything else, if it wasn't for Dr. Stull being there, and now that he's more freer to do things, we'll probably have him on film next time, so he'd be able to see him actually do some of this work. But I want to thank you, Dr. Stull, for everything you've done, and congratulations on the award. And this area and the state of Ohio is very lucky to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. All right, so Doc, our past founders event community founder, Dr. Charles Goodwin.
Okay, thank you. I must say, if I'd known these acts I was going to have to follow, I'm not sure I would have agreed to do this. Paul and I go back almost 40 years, and I look like it. We had this very dear lady, Janet Freeman, who told Paul, says, "You have just got to meet Doc." And since that time, we have been through a symphony of unnatural acts together. The variety of animals. I've been out with him for surgery on camels, monkeys, rabbits, venomous snakes. He likes those better than I do. But, and Paul is constantly reading, trying to learn more. I have a little saying, every morning I get up and say, "Lord, let me go to bed a little less stupid than I woke up this morning." I'm going to change that to, "Lord, let me be as smart as Paul." And all the things he has done with animals, and we're going to cover some of those. But he knows more human medicines than most doctors. He's been with me on the medical team at a World Jamboree. And it just doesn't work, though, when he tells somebody to turn their head and bark. Well, Paul grew up on a farm in Southwest. It doesn't work very well. And so Paul grew up on a farm in Southeast Ohio, and he hunted and fished most of his life. And he's camped, hiked, and backpacked all over Ohio and most of the United States, including Alaska and Hawaii. He's an avid outdoorsman. He's a Red Cross canoe instructor. He's certified in scuba, advanced wilderness kayaking, canoeing, wilderness first aid responder. He served with me as an instructor when I teach the 2-day course for wilderness and remote first aid. And it gets a little strange when he tells somebody to move their back leg. So he and Jan have been married for 58 years, and they have 3 children, 6 grandchildren, and 8 grandchildren. They had to get together and count up to figure this one out. His son Tim is an Eagle Scout and recipient of a Meritorious Service Award for life saving. And his grandson Tim, who's out there, was with me. And he was in the class of 2010 Eagle Scouts when that class was named for Paul, and I had the opportunity then to say a few words about him. You've heard about Jan. Jan, like my wife Judy, are candidates for sainthood. The holdup has been they only need 3 miracles and they can't figure out which 3 to use. So it's difficult. So he first got into scouting with his son Tim, and characteristically of Paul, he really got involved. He's been awarded the Silver Beaver, the Silver Antelope Award, and is a vigil member of the Order of the Arrow. This is the highest honor that you can get. The 2010 Eagle Class Scout was named for him. He served on many Wood Badge courses. These are the courses, the leadership courses for adults. He's been the director for 2 of these. He served as a council president, 2002 to 2005. He served on many district and council committees, and is vice president of camping, facilities administration, and during his tenure as the council conservation committee, the Miami Valley Council received the Green Seal and the Gold Seal Award from the United States Department of Agriculture. This is the highest award in conservation that can be awarded. He's been on the local council, he's been in the national council. He served as vice president of Area 4 of the Central Region and on the Central Region Executive Board and Advisory Board. He's been on the staff for the National Jamborees and has been a scoutmaster for the World Jamborees in Chile in 2001, England in 2007, and Japan in 2015. And he was on the international service team for the World Jamboree in Sweden in 2011, and he was on the medical staff with me for the World Jamboree at the Summit in West Virginia in 2019. In addition to serving for many years as assistant scoutmaster, he's led 2 expeditions to Philmont, to the northern Wisconsin High Adventure Base. He's been to Sea Base, Southern Tier High Adventure Base, and he served as the chairman 3 times for annual report to the governor. He attended Ohio State University, where he majored in math, chemistry, physics, and biology, followed by attending Ohio State School of Veterinary Medicine. I say the guy's smart. He's nationally known in veterinary medicine, and he's a co-author of the Veterinary Medicine Merit Badge pamphlet. He's an expert in veterinary care of exotic animals, and for 55 years he's been in the private practice of veterinary medicine and surgery on a wide range of vertebrate and invertebrate species, including pets, food, equine, wildlife, exotic, and laboratory animals. He surgically removed a kidney cancer in a parakeet, and a few years later he went to a meeting and was told it couldn't be done. Fortunately, they didn't tell him that before he did it. But knowing Paul, he wouldn't have believed him if they had. So he's a co-founder and former chairman of the board of Suburban Veterinary Clinic. I'll kind of skip over some of these things. He's a clinical professor in the Department of Biology at the University of Dayton, where he teaches general entomology. And a portion of the course is devoted to forensics and veterinary forensics. He's, for many years, been a very, very popular course. It's been a very, very popular course. And Paul is not only known for his lecturing expertise, but he also serves as a surrogate grandfather for many of the students who come up to him with all their little problems. And I personally had the opportunity, I go there and give one little talk each year. And so I've seen the students, how they interact with him and the affection that they have for him. He's recently become interested in Homeland Security, and we've kind of been through that. He's a true volunteer. He's a deacon at Morning Baptist Church, Morning Star Baptist Church. He's been a member of the Centerville Noon Optimist Club, to say the longest member. He served on the board for the Washington Township Library. He's been given a number of presentations at all levels for students in elementary and secondary schools. And he served as a veterinarian, as I say, for Tim Harrison Outreach for Animals. So much for Paul Stull, the legend. Now for Paul Stull, the man. He and I, through scouting, have become very close friends. And I have noted that he attends events with both scouts and adults. He's out meeting the kids and talking with them. He has a great wit. I don't care what the occasion, he has a little story for it. And sometimes we got to, just before the National Jamboree in 89, I guess, he and I got to swapping stories before most of the kids got there. And pretty soon we must have had 100, 150 people standing there listening. And it was difficult to come up with another story to top him, but I did my best. So as I say, he and I have had the opportunity to work together on a number of jamborees, national jamborees, world jamborees. At the World Jamboree in Chile in 1991, we had an interesting group. They melded two groups together, and we had an oral maxillofacial surgeon, a pediatric surgeon, a veterinarian, the CEO of a company, a lawyer, a computer whiz who spoke fluent Spanish. And it was said that we could treat anybody and the horse they rode in on. For a while, I had a little convertible, and when Paul and I would go to a meeting, we'd let the top down to poof our hair. It worked. The ladies just found us irresistible. So at the end of Paul's class at the University of Dayton, he has the students fill out an evaluation. They always give glowing reports. One young lady in the entomology class at the University of Dayton really summed it up, how well he relates to the young people. She said, if Dr. Stull were a little younger and not married, I'd sure be interested in him. So you can see he truly is a legend.
Those stories about his students are true, because when Dr. Stull came to meet with me in the library a couple of weeks ago, I guess it was, one of his students walked by and he turned and he said, Dr. Stull! And he was so excited, and Dr. Stull got up and they talked, and how are you, buddy? And the kid walked off and he said, oh yeah, he's in my entomology class over at UD. And he was so excited. He said, it is my favorite class. So well done, well done. All right, well, we do have a fun little, are you ready, Carol? Okay, we have a little video for you. It's approximately 12 minutes, and please roll it.
Paul is one of the smartest people I've ever seen. He's constantly reading and learning, but he's got this real funny wit about him. He's got a funny story for every single occasion, and he's always out there trying to do something for other people.
Paul Stull is like Mr. Rogers. He's considerate, he's friendly, he's honest, he's knowledgeable, and everyone would want him as a neighbor and a friend.
Be trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. That sounds like a fairy tale, but my dad lives his life that way. He lived his life that way before he ever joined those organizations. It's just who he is. He's very loyal, and he is, although he can be very professional and very serious, he does have a couple other characteristics that people don't normally see, which is he's an instigator, and he's a prankster.
And you asked what Paul was like. When you gave it back to Paul, he was the first to laugh. He laughed very hard. He had a very self-effacing laugh. So he brought to the club a humor a willingness to poke at ourselves, and a real fellowship that developed a camaraderie in the club.
One of the things Paul always enjoyed doing as an optimist, we have this activity in our Optimist Club. It used to only be 25 cents, now it's $1, and it's a happy buck. And you can say, you know, something that's good news, a story. And he used to love to hold up his dollar and go on and spin a yarn and tell about something that happened in his practice, in the Boy Scouts, or somewhere along in the many things that he did in our community.
Paul was a very good athlete. He was an accomplished softball player. He started the Noon Optimist softball team, and he was a player coach. So one year they had a great year. They progressed in the tournament, and they're up 9-0. And Gary Anderson, who was the shortstop, goes to Paul and he says, Paul, you got to get in the game. And Paul says, no, you guys are doing. He says, come on, Paul, this is fun, get in the game. So he gets in the game, and as Paul comes back the next week to report to the Optimist Club, he said, you know, the balls were hit just to the left of me, and just to the right of me, and just over me. 2 innings later, it was 9-9, and we lost, but I want to tell you right now, we came in 4th. And upon prodding, we found out that there were only 4 teams in the tournament.
So when I was a kid, very young, the 5 of us are in the living room, and my dad always likes my mom to be around. So a lot of times you'll see my mom on my dad's lap. It's just the way it is. And my aunt had given us a chair, the ugliest brown chair you've ever seen, with some great colors such as orange and blue, all those colors that go with brown. And my dad insisted that she sit on his lap. Had he been on a bench or a couch, it would have worked out great. But this was a recliner, and my dad decided to lean back. And of course, there was a loud scream, and then all you saw was the bottom of the chair and 4 feet. And the point is, no matter what, the nights that they spent sleeping on the couch together rather than whatever, in bed, my dad likes to have my mom around, and sometimes that doesn't work out.
I think one of the really interesting things that happened is that a few years back, he and I worked on a recurrent hernia on a Japanese snow macaque monkey. And that was, the vets had fixed it 8 years earlier. They just don't do very many. And Paul asked me, he said, how many hernias have you done? I said, I don't know, at least 2,000. So he said, you're coming with me. And so he did the anesthesia, I did the surgery, and fixed the hernia on this monkey. At some point in time, it's going to be on television on a series, Wild Times with Tim Harrison.
Well, again, the Optimist Club is to sponsor and support activities for school-age children. And I think if we look around, when we started, we grew the club by Paul and Tom and Will. It was their ideas to do the fishing derby, the Optimist speech contest, TriStar basketball, and so many other things. So and he has been a longtime member of the Boy Scouts, contributing member, sponsor on the Council for Boy Scouts. So when you say, what's he done? He can sit back and look to see all of the activities going on and know, even though he doesn't look for recognition, he knows he was a part of building that.
Paul was a volunteer with the Washington Township Libraries. He's been with the, he's volunteered in scouting. He volunteers in everything.
Well, 51 years is a long time to belong to any organization, and throughout that time he has been very committed to the tagline of Optimist, which is friend of youth. And he not only models that in our Optimist community, but in our community at large and in the Boy Scout community, where he has played a tremendous role in the Boy Scout movement and in sponsoring Boy Scouts, going on jamborees, I believe is the term, with the Boy Scouts, and just committed. Needless to say, he's an amazing veterinarian as well, and he has certainly changed the lives of many people through the care that he's given to their pets and animals.
Well, like I said, he lives his life by the creed. He is very positive. Matter of fact, now I've seen my dad mad, but for the most part, he is either laughing, smiling, or, you know, just all around being positive. He also, well, I'll tell you how he gets behind me. So my dad has always had my back. And when I say that, I don't mean like he's behind me with his hands out. My dad is right up against me with his arms around me, and it's been that way my whole life. And the thing that I know about him is he has done that for other people, and for that matter, strangers. So he's always positive, and he will always have your back. He's fiercely loyal.
I think the fact that he always is doing something for other people. He never wants anything for himself. He was horrified when I told him he was getting this, and said we must have mixed him up with somebody else. But he's always got a funny little story for every situation.
I would want him to be a neighbor. I'd want him to be a friend, and I would want him to be somebody that I knew quite well. He is that type of gentleman. He's the complete package. He has given his time, his treasure, and his talents to this community, whether it is as an optimist, a veterinarian, a Boy Scout, a husband, a father. He's done it all, and for that I admire him very much, and I thank the Centerville-Washington Foundation for recognizing him.
Well, of course, he's wicked smart. He's book learned, unbelievable. But I'm comfortable being dim as a rock. But I guess it would be that he can see the bright side of any situation. I can be a Debbie Downer, but he has pretty much taught me that no matter what, there's a positive side to all things, and he can just see that all the time.
Well, there's a lot of things to admire, but you know, the optimists have a creed, and one of those statements in the creed is to have a cheerful countenance at all times and give every living creature a smile. And I think if there's something that sums up Dr. Paul Stull, he always has a smile on his face. He has a good thing to say to everyone. And if I could just add, I want to thank the Centerville-Washington Township Foundation, because Paul never goes out and looks for any type of recognition, and he's earned and deserved this pat on the back, and so I want to thank him for that.
Let's do this, guys.
Are we ready, guys?
Ready.
Here we go.
We want to thank you for all you've done. We want to thank you. It's been so fun. Except for that time. Well, I think you know. We want to thank you, Dr. Stull.
That time I got the hairball stuck in my throat.
Or the time the skunk sprayed my beautiful coat. The really weird time I came in one day and I left the next and I was missing something. We want to thank you for all you've done. We want to thank you. It's been so fun.
We
Except
want
for
to
that time.
Well,
I think you
you
know.
know.
We want to thank you,
Dr. Stull.
We We want to thank you,
Dr. Stull.
we want to thank you
Dr. Stull.
for all you've done.
Give special thanks to Terry O'Brien and Tri-Level Records for the production of that tribute video, including him playing the dog and I was the cat. So at this time, I would like to invite Dr. Paul A. Stull to come up with a rebuttal.
Hi, David. I'm afraid of crowds, and so if I stutter a little bit or something, you can forgive me. Hopefully, I tell you, I don't know that there's a rebuttal that I can make for. I can't even remember all that stuff, but I'm going to tell one story, and then we can go home. Now, some of you have heard this story before, but it's a dandy. And it's completely and totally true. Had a lady came in, this has been some years ago, and I don't even remember what the parrot's problem was now, but all the time, the first thing she said to me, and this is the way she said it, when I walked in the exam room, she said, "My bird has an 87-word vocabulary." Said it just real monotone, and I thought, the bird knows more words than I do. But I didn't say anything. And all the time that I'm examining that bird, she's trying to get it to say something. And the bird was a great bird. It just stood on the exam room table like a statue. Didn't try to chew on my stethoscope. Didn't try to chew on me. Just stood there, and looked at me out of one eye. Yeah. And she's trying to get this bird to say something, and finally, she started cussing at it, and I held up my hand, and I said, wait. I said, it's okay. If he knows 87 words, I believe you. I said, he's excited. He's out of his home. He went for a car ride. He's in a strange building. He's got this guy feeling under his wings and feeling his belly and all this stuff. And inside, he's upset, and he doesn't want to talk. I said, but I believe you. And so we finished the examination. I started to walk out of the room. I opened the exam room door, opened up and started to walk out, and the bird said, "Bye." And I had tears running down my face. I was laughing so hard. I think that kind of sums it up. But I want to thank all of you for coming tonight and helping celebrate this event with me. It's wonderful. There are people in here, most of you I know really well, many of you dearly love you guys and you know it. And if I started down through the list, we'd be here till midnight. So I won't put you through that, but thank you so much. And thanks, Dick, for you and Kathleen for coming. And I have a hard time keeping track of you. David and Ann, who were our neighbors for how many years, David? 16 years, I think. You can see how big he is. I asked him to be my bodyguard. Anyway, thanks for coming, and I'll be talking with most of you down the road, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Paul. This has been quite an evening and so many great things. Jan, if you would come up also. And we want to start by giving Jan some flowers from the foundation for the recognition for all that you've done for the community, and to put up what sounds like with Dr. Paul and all of his shenanigans. And we have added his name to the plaque. Somehow, Dr. Charlie Goodwin was on it in 2014, so you're a little bit behind him, but I'm sure it's an honor to be on the same plaque.
Yes.
We just can't be proud enough, the community, for all that you've done. And the animals are so thankful for you. I'm so glad that the video showed that so well.
Most of the animals.
Yeah. We have a gift for you, and if you could open it.
Yeah, we'll put your family photo.
Yeah, so this does not represent what you're going to have, but it represents something we have now, and then we'll add a family photo to it after we've taken some pictures tonight. So we're so glad to be able to give you a memento.
Well, thank you so much ahead of time.
Just open it like a monkey.
Oh, wow. That is something. You know what? I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life. It's got the picture.
You are the best. Thank you. Okay. Oh, what is this? All right. As we close Paul's Founders event, let's think about what a founder is. It's someone who helps others and helps those around him serve as well. Let us all stand and thank Paul for who he is and for all that he's done.